So as I do this project, its ecosystem, I've noticed a clash between natural cycle and people who are aquascaping. They're so obsessed sometimes with making it look beautiful, which I don't blame them, great, that they miss thinking in the biology of nipping things in the bud. So one person was worried about, I've just planted Monte Carlo, right? And this is at the front part. This is your Monte Carlo now at the front display area, as I call it. And this will be a carpeting plant. It will carpet right through this front area. And if I'm efficient enough, it will be well maintained. This front area, keep it trimmed down, and you trim it, and it seems to come back thicker. I think the lighting is adequate. There's a lot of talk about CO2 with your plants. I really don't believe you're going to need it. It's a fairly good beginner plant, ideal for carpeting. But somebody was showing how they had a carpet area of this, and it was getting thicker and just a mound that was growing, and they was worried about it because yes, it can get so dense it traps all the detritus or the waste and everything in there. And you might think, well, that's a good thing, and I do think it's a good thing. It's also, over time, it's a ticking time bomb, is what they were saying. And there have been cases where a mound has got so intense individually, because they kept it trimmed and all that, but yes, now it's producing oxygen, but it's producing oxygen through photosynthesis within a confined space, and because of that, it's actually, there's some cases where parts of it are just lifted up or anchor it, but why is lifting it? Why does it float up? We know it floats up. Why is it floating up? Why is that a problem? Well, because that waste and everything trapped underneath and is now lifted up with it, and it's all pouring down, and you got polluted water. You got a ammonia spike all of a sudden. All you need to do is gently get a jar, fill it with water, bring it down, and cut piece off right down to the bottom of the aquarium, and let that float up into the jar, and gently get all that waste that can go in that jar, and gently bring it up, and then replace that area you cut right down to the bottom of the actual, not the substrate, but the whatever your enclosure is made of. Got a bare piece now, and just fill that back in with some substrate here and there, maintain it that way. And next thing you know, next to it will start propagating from the Monte Carlo next to the now cut away area, and you spread things out. This way, what have you got? You've got a biological filter that is doing its thing rather than a mechanical filter anyway, and you can take a piece out and you replace it with clean substrate. It's the same way you take a filter out and you clean part of your filter, but your filter sponge. That's all it is. But it's so worried. He said, this looks great for now, but this is a ticking time bomb. It's like, you do all these things, amazing things, make it look beautiful, and yet you haven't rubbed the brain cells together to actually think, hang on, this is what I could do. Despite, yeah, it may temporarily destroy your wonderful artistic display. There's a lot about the aquascaping I'm looking at. Great, some of them look beautiful, absolutely amazing. I do want this to look really nice and amazing, but I'm not going to get so attached to any one aspect of it to the detriment of the occupants, because the occupants are part of the bigger picture anyway, part of the enjoyment of this art form. Because aquascaping on its own is art form. Understanding the biology is important to understand that how the art form can be tweaked and presented and changed here and there for a continuation of your enjoyment. Right? But don't worry about it. You know, that blew my mind of watching that, and I was thinking, it was titled something like what they don't tell you about Monte Carlo, and sometimes the routes can get so intense, and routes isn't so tight, it traps all this stuff, which is fine. It's fine. Nothing wrong with that. It's a good thing. It's trapping all the muck, and you know, if you're keeping your aquarium too clean, you're keeping an aquarium, not an ecosystem. It's what I tried to get across in the other video, and they had a lot of jumping around with the camera. I'm not sure what was going on there. A few things I might need to tweak, but generally, this shouldn't be a problem. If you've got your aquarium though too clean, in terms of you don't want too much waste in there at the bottom of substrate doing biological things to break down things that are toxic to your occupants, because you think, oh, super clean is going to be healthy. It's actually unhealthy. There are more pathogens, diseases, and things free to attack your fish or other occupants, whatever you've got, in an aquarium that is way more cleaner than a ecosystem. This is why I got substrate that is like dirt, but it's actually fluval stratum. Looking up, I've got a bag of it up there. Fluval stratum, specifically designed with all that in mind, the biology of encouraging beneficial bacteria to live on the surface area. I've explained this a number of times. People are still not quite getting it. There's a lot that do get it. Trust me, that there really is. There's still that divide where people think, "Oh, what do I do?" And oh, you do nothing. That's the bigger clue. There is because nature is doing some of these things for you. You know. I went and ordered a whole bunch of Daphnia, very cheap, and I couldn't get a cheaper deal without so many bags of Daphnia, so I shoved them all in the tank, and the whiteness that is bacterial blooms. I know exactly what that is. It is bacterial bloom. It's nothing else. Beginning to clear, but you have all, as you might have seen on Discord, all these little guys swimming around. Nature will take care of that population anyway. There's too many in there really, but at the moment, but it'll pan out. But we have lots of little Daphnia water fleas jumping around. Also, some cyclops in there as well. Some of them got mixed in with the Daphnia cultures as they come along. So a few more different things got along with the ride. That's a good thing. Not a problem at all. So at the moment we have breadroot floating plant, one plant. Bit of Java moss. I don't know if the Java moss is or not. I might skip on mosses as well. It depends. I'm do a bit more research on mosses. So we have japonica grass, which we'll see how that goes. I may need to have japonica grass in a bit more of an open area. Help it spirit out, grow more. We have Monte Carlo, japonica grass, Java moss, breadroot floaters, and I can't remember the name of it. Let me check my email. Google the keyboard. That's five different plants. Because we have algal growth that may be coming along anyway, which is a good thing. We want it. Saying that to somebody is, oh no, we got algae, and that's a really good sign your ground's healthy. But by all means, there is a problem where getting rid of it can be beneficial to your viewpoint. So you don't want too much of it on the glass. There's loads and loads of different types. Most of them are genuinely benign. There is one that is a problem. So let me check the email, what that plant was called. It's on the tip of my tongue. Some of them have some really weird names anyway. I've also ordered some Rotella rotundifolia. Some of it's a beautiful, it's greens and reds. Supposed to be relatively cheap, and there's some things we may at some point if it withers a bit need to do, like root tabs further down the line, months and months down the line. But yeah, keep it trim, and you know, I've got an idea where it's going to go in the layout. Is that we got Monte Carlo? I think that was it. Oh, there was one. I was trying to internet deciding what to get. So yeah, we got about 7 different plants at the moment, and it sounds like a lot, but these are individually on their own. They're going to be cut back quite a lot. But I want a good variety, but each one would be trimmed back quite a lot here and there. There will be times when growth sort of gets slightly out of hand, when there's times where I'm not here, if I book a week away from somewhere, but there'll be enough biology going on in the tank to care for the feeding requirements of the occupants as well. Yeah, and yes, if I think before I go away I may need a bit of a help with that, I'm not going to ask somebody, because there's always a story of something going wrong with that. There will be a automatic feeder in case I need it, but generally that's just a last resort. If I think I don't need it, I'm not going to use it. We have Daphnia culture in here. We have scud culture in here. We have, these are all little tiny crustaceans, and we have Cyclops is nicknamed as, because they literally got one eye, like aquatic. These are cultures that can breed in an environment where there's enough things growing from waste anyway, and they feed on that, and fish can feed on these things. Chili rasboras are known for tiny mouths, so I'm probably going to be getting chili rasboras anyway, but they'll be able to eat these little bugs things, and every day I'll be watching wherever I think that the food supply is too low or high enough, or so on. Waste being produced is feeding the plants. It's an ecosystem. It's not an aquarium, it's an ecosystem. Now, the idea that your super clean aquarium is actually unhealthy. Let nature be your filter to get these things going. Of course, circulation for aeration is important. The plants are doing that, but they're not doing it at night. So at night, aeration comes on synthetically from an air pump. And a bit of water flow will cause waste actually to go in certain areas where the plants would feed on it anyway. I'll cut back the plants, be cutting things down, taking them out of the enclosure, squashing them down, actually literally blending this and compressing it down, and this then can be a pellet. You can make a pellet out of this, which pop it back in will quickly sort of break down. But why? Why would I do that? Well, we're putting nutrients back in, and the shrimp will love it. To feed on that. Yeah. So you make a wafer out there. So you can buy algae wafers for your shrimp. You know, these minerals, nutrients, and all this can be sort of, you get filter out some of the waste, and you're left with mostly plant matter. You can crush that down and dry it out and feed it. There's still plenty of nutrients there. Yes. So that's Cyclops are always known as name of this crustacean. I know there's some of these in there. Seen them along, go along, jumping around, swimming to this jerky motion, along with the Daphnia. It's a crustacean anyway. It's copepods. They're part of the copepods family. They're not shrimp. But the scuds, as you saw, are part of the shrimp family. They're not. People are asked about what do they call it? The sea monkeys. There's a market to appeal to children. Where you put this stuff in, you see these sea monkeys hatch out, and it's that's brine shrimp actually, meaning they need brackish water. Scuds will probably die in brackish water, like salt water. Yeah, there's a whole cycle with the. Although that's not really a good food source, so the brine shrimp for freshwater fish, not because they're brackish water anyway. They're incredibly resilient creatures. The eggs are super strong and all this. And this seed shrimp as well is not really the best thing to feed them. But I did get some of those. Those kind of died off. But doing a bit of research, seed shrimp, their outer shell, you got there's like two halves, outer casing and the shrimps inside these casing, and it's very protective. It's so much so that fish can have been known to try and eat those, and they've come out still intact. They withdraw into those two cases. Right, fascinating. Yeah, there's lots of different things. If I look at life cycle brine shrimp, each spring as Salt Lake warms, masses of brine shrimp cysts begin to hatch. Newly hatched brine shrimp larvae called Norplii, yeah, Norpilli, no, I don't know, dominate the water by the late April. They grow and develop. Brine shrimp go through a series of 14 to 17 different stages. Each stage is separated from the next by a molt. Molting involves growing a new, larger exoskeleton and shedding the old one. When water is warm, food is plentiful, and oxygen levels are high. Brine shrimp can develop to adulthood in as little as 8 days. The conditions in Great Salt Lake aren't quite ideal, so normally it takes 3 to 6 weeks for brine shrimp to reach maturity. It's a thing that if you raise temperature, these sorts of things tend to develop faster as well. That. How shrimp last? became a thing where you get eggs actually in packaging. Just add water and a bunch of other things, brackish water, and these eggs hatch out. But it became a thing. Certainly in the UK, a couple of years ago we saw this sea monkeys kind of thing aimed at children, and it's brine shrimp eggs known as cis are popular. They can use the eggs as a food source. Longevity. Several key factors determine how long brine shrimp eggs are viable. They can keep almost indefinitely at temperatures. Seems that way. How long do brine shrimp eggs last under different conditions? Unopened tins in the freezer, 5 to 10 years plus. Sealed container in the freezer, 3 to 5 years. Vacuum packaging in the freezer, 3 to 5 years plus. Sealed container in the refrigerator, -1 year. Refrigeration slows system metabolism. You can freeze these things and then unfreeze them, and the biology starts kicking back in. Amazing. Room temperature container at room temperature 4 to 6 months. So they can keep 10 plus years in specialized packaging, really. Looking at that. Yeah. Well, and that's why it became a thing. It was like, but yeah, they're not that nutritional. The fish, they're very low in protein. Actually, they're not the best thing to feed your fish. Don't breed these if you want a live food source. You're better off with Daphnia are a fantastic food source. So things like the scuds, as well as got the cyclops little thingies. Probably another Nate cyclops. Fish. There was another name. You can get bloodworm. Well, you can get them in frozen packets, and those are dead anyway. But defrosting them, the fish love those as well. And you know that's good protein and good for the coloration of the fish. So I want to have as much as I can in terms of live food. You got these little crustaceans, as well as you got algal growths, and all this will cycle around as part of the natural biology, what's going on here, and you know, you observe when they need to be fed. There's a certainly within the aquatic hobby, whenever you're feeding fish, they always look like, oh, they eat up all the food right quickly. And doesn't matter how many times you feed, they'll do that. Just a natural response. Fish love feeding, and they don't always know when the next meal is going to be, actually, in some conditions in the wild. So they just take it when it's available. If it's available all the time, they don't know any different. You can overfeed, and they start leaving food, and it can pollute your water. Because there's not enough, even if they were doing it a more natural way, allowing things to be breaking down waste, you can still give too much waste there. And ammonia in the water column starts to build and burns the gills of the fish, the sensitive membranes of gills. It's basically zooplankton, a number of individual crustaceans, microscopic things, and all this. And chili rosboras will feed on these. They definitely like prefer this. And there are flakes for chili rosboras. Their size, their tiny mouths. You just crumble it as well. You just make it dusty for them, and they will eat that as well. They will do well under the right conditions. They're hardy fish as well. If I'm lucky, I might even be able to breed some, and so breed some cherry shrimp as well. And we got what's planned is Octocinclus, red cherry shrimp, otherwise known as red neocardina shrimp, more of an accurate name, and the chili rosboras Octocinclus is kind of like a catfish, not a true catfish. It's a little fish with a sucker, and they help keep down algal growths, and they probably don't know whether they eat some of the live bugs or not, but they do as bonus of food for them. Sometimes you can treat them with an algal wafer, just the same as you do with shrimp as well. Peace out. Thanks for watching. Take care. I look forward to doing another video soon. That was surprising to me. This guy talking about his Monte Carlo. This is bad. This is a ticking time bomb. Was just unfortunately you gotta change your aquascape a little bit by cutting the piece off and doing it in a way that doesn't pollute the water column. Just bite the bullet and let things eventually naturally come back. And then maintain that when it starts coming back. This is all you need to do. It shouldn't be that hard. Thank you. Peace out. Bye.